Welcome back to Candid Careers, where we sit down with real people and have honest conversations about their journeys. I'm your host, Ryan Michael, and today I'm joined by Sam Daly, the owner of Daily Fit, and we get into what his journey in personal training and personal coaching looked like. We talk about the challenges he's had to face and overcome, the lessons he's learned along the way, and the things people don't necessarily think about when getting into this industry. I found this conversation very encouraging and very insightful, and I hope you find the same. Without further ado, my conversation with a personal coach and a personal trainer. Sam, how are we doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, taking your time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me and kind of have a conversation with me, what it looks like to be in your role. So to kick us off, what's your job title and your job description?
Yeah, so I've been a coach now, a weight loss coach, a personal trainer of sorts, online coach as well. Really, like weight loss is the biggest thing that that I focus on and what I've worked in. But I've worked with athletes before. I've worked with 65 plus. And all the way down to like 13, 14 years of age as well. So in that time, in that decade's worth of time, I've been able to help a lot of different people, all shapes, sizes, and everything in between. And I've gained a lot of perspective in a lot of ways too, because, a 13-year-old is going to respond much different than a 75-year-old. You know what I mean? And so my title is, CEO, entrepreneur. I do own my own business where I do personal training, personal coaching, as well as online coaching. And the term online coaching, there's a lot of online coaches out there, right? It's a kind of an umbrella term. And I've had clients tell me in the past, like, you're more than just a coach, you're more of like a life coach. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know what that means. Mm-hmm. And I asked this person, like, what does that mean exactly? And she was like, well, I'm not really sure either, but you've just helped me on a way more than just like in the gym. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So yeah, that's the long of it, I'll say. But yeah.
Cool. And how long have you been doing that?
I started my coaching career in Columbia City with a friend of mine. He started a business, a boot camp gym called Carnivore Fitness. It changed from that to Strive Fit Club in 2021, I think late 21. And then, and it was the same building. So that was back in, I think, June 15th, 2015, 6 p.m. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly, like, it was a sunny, hot, because it was, mid-June. And we had no AC in that building. We had flooding in the building, and it was just, it's like when you picture someone's first start at something and then they end up being like, actually, I guess if you want to call me successful, go for it. And then it's that story of like, okay, this is where this person's rags to riches. I'm not claiming to be rich. I'm just saying, but it's that same thing. It's like you start with very little to nothing, and then you just, you stay resilient, you stay determined, you stay disciplined with everything. And then the fruit of it, And so, yeah, I remember that June 15th, 2015, I was 19 years old, about turned 20. Just got through my first year in college at IPFW, not to date myself. It's been an amazing journey ever since. Worked for different companies and things like that. And I wanted to take coaching in the direction that I saw fit. And, I made the jump. So,
yeah. Is there such thing as like a regular day for you? Can you walk us through what a normal quote unquote normal day looks like for you?
I'd love to. Let me think through this. So every day is very different. And I've had this conversation with other entrepreneurs too, who are in different fields, obviously. And the thing about it, what I've learned about becoming an entrepreneur, obviously, starting a gym back at 19, almost 20, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I had no equity, but I worked and became the face of that business. A lot of people in my hometown knew that business and knew I worked for that business. They didn't even know the actual owner, really. And that's no shame or anything, but that was just, I became the face of it. I really excelled at, being charismatic, being, coaching people, helping people, and just being an ear to listen and an active listener. And so anyway, like, I've had that conversation with entrepreneurs, like, you don't really clock out. I've got multiple friends who are entrepreneurs, and before I even made the leap, I kind of knew what I was getting into, because I would just, spend time under them and listening to them. What do they say? How positive are they about their day to day? Is this something that I actually want to jump into? Actually make the leap and become an entrepreneur? I don't know. I have a hard enough time spelling the word. You know what I mean? So, so yeah, just making the leap. I always say, like, I don't really clock out. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's not like I'm fully clocked in either, because at the same time, like, if I want to go do something, my schedule is flexible enough to be able to go do that. I don't have to ask somebody for permission to do it. I just have to, like, okay, schedule it out. Like, I have to manipulate and move my calendar, move things around as I need to in order to make that stuff work, which can be stressful. But so that's more like a grand scale thing. But I have clients in the morning, early in the morning. I have clients later in the afternoon, evening. So, and then sometimes in the late morning, middle of the day. So a lot of it's, creating content, trying to, message people, say, like, give them, how are you doing? Like, hey, long time since we chatted. Like, how are things? Like, I noticed you've got 2 kids now. I haven't talked to you since you had the first one, right? Like, how you been? And then just seeing too, like, is it maybe there's someone who would be interested in coaching. So that's a lot of my day too. Facebook messages. I hear the whoop, the noise. The Facebook message noise. I hear that a lot throughout my day, and it's just it's answering messages. It's being there, being that point of contact with anyone, anytime, all the time. So, but again, like, I do love it. So whether it's going and working out myself, I make sure I make it a point to exercise to some degree, at least be active every day, especially in the summer months. Like, if I didn't get a chance to lift that day, I'm going to go find some time, go to a park or something and go walk around, whatever, spend time with my daughter and things like that. So yeah.
How has being a coach changed your relationship with your own physical health? Because obviously it's your job, you're doing it every day. It's like, how has that kind of shifted since, obviously you've been doing this for a long time? Like, how have you seen it shift during your journey?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I would say, I don't know that it's so much my career has here's what I'll say. I'll say, being, like, your job being in the gym, you would think that, like, I would almost, like, start to resent being in the gym, because you almost, like, like, my first job was, I worked at a Eagle Glen, which is a golf course in Columbia City. And I remember, like, weed whacking for 7 hours straight. And I'm not a huge golfer, but I got free golfing, right? Take advantage, Yeah. And I just did not want to be there anymore. So, like, I maybe golfed for free once or twice that entire summer. So you would think the same thing would happen if you're in the gym, working in the gym, so there's a little bit of that. At the same time too, though, like, there's still that, like, I'm here, I know it's good for me. And even though I might only have 20 minutes, I'm going to do something real quick. And then I'm just going to go, my own way and, check it off the box, if you will. That's a really good question. I mean, and I would say the things that I've always wanted to challenge myself physically in different ways over that span. And I don't know if it's really just the entrepreneurship or being a coach has led me that way. I think it's kept me involved in it a lot more seriously than if I would have done something else. That would make sense to me. But I've done bodybuilding. I did a bodybuilding show May of 24. I'm, actually seriously considering and contemplating, like, getting into running a little bit more. I did the Murph last Monday, and I was like, this should not be as hard as it is. And so I was like, okay, I got to get ahead of this before it becomes an issue. So that's a really good question. I think that's the best answer I can come up with right now. Is, it's always kept me very involved in it because I've always been it. Identity too. Like, people, when they see me, they know, oh, that guy probably works out. There's no way he doesn't not work out. So it's like, people see me as that. I see myself as that when I look in the mirror. And it's just like an identity shift. It's like, I was a football player, which we haven't talked about yet, and then I got into, weightlifting, and then it's just changed and molded and shifted and, manipulated throughout. Yeah. Great question. I never thought about that before.
That's something I'd always assume, maybe they wrongfully assume, rightfully assume, that when people are doing what they love to do as a job, like you said, they do start to resent it a little bit. And I sometimes will just ask that people that, hey, like, do you still enjoy this as much as you used to, or why you got started? Because I've even seen that in my own self. I'm only 25, so, like, I haven't done a whole lot of things I've just gone for yet, but like it just seems like a natural trend towards that. Is there any piece of advice you would give to somebody thinking about becoming a personal coach in kind of the same fitness, weight loss industry? Any piece of advice you would give them to combat that resentfulness to weightlifting or training or being in the gym?
Yeah, another good question. Really good question. Just remember why you started. You know, like if your intention is to work a really flexible schedule and to make a lot of money and, you know, have all this freedom, um, understand that you're not going to be able to do that. Like it's just not something. The career doesn't really lend itself to that fully. If I mean again, like if you're a genuine person and you genuinely want to help people, just remember why you started. You know, and also too, like you are the billboard for your business. So if you don't take care of yourself, people are going to notice. You know, so there's a little bit of that peer pressure that I put on myself too because of that. Like I know that people are going to like, okay, yeah, Sam's put on like 50 pounds here. What's going on? Like, is he, you know, he's not taking action behind what he preaches. And I'd rather be a practitioner than like just someone who is book smart, for example, and not bedside smart, right? It's the same kind of thing there. So, yeah, no, that's probably how I'd wrap that one up. 100%.
Yeah, that's a really good insight.
Thank you.
So kind of pivot back to the day to day. You had mentioned you're working with clients in the morning, afternoon, sometimes late day, and then in between kind of being that relationship builder, connecting with people, keeping people accountable. So when it comes to the training side, when you're doing that morning, afternoon, evening, is there a gym that you rent out or use? Like, do you own a gym or go to a gym, or is it more at the people's homes?
Yeah. So, again, 2 that I do from home. And then I am currently coaching out of a gym. Still some things, kind of exciting things might come about from that. Not really sure really where that's going yet. But just some exciting things coming from there. I did start when Daily Fit started, July of 2022. So we're almost to 4 years. Yeah. That I had my own studio in the same building that my coaching career started. So, yeah, that childhood best friend of mine who we started that gym together, he ended up actually buying the building 3 years after we started. And so he actually became my, landlord. I signed a commercial lease agreement and all those things. And I leapt for it. I just jumped for it and it just grew and it grew too fast. And I became an online coach because I was like, I can't sustain this. Which I'm blessed to be able to say that, to have the clientele where it's like, I don't even have time to, think about anything else, was really, really, really pretty cool. So yeah, I would just say like that's a tough one. I'm just trying to think through the best way to answer that. Ask the question again because I don't really. Yeah,
no, you're good. Yeah,
that.
no, you're good. So pretty, and even as you were talking, I kind of brought up a different question. Is having a relationship or kind of like you said, like a commercial agreement with a physical gym important for this business? Or can you do it more at people's homes? Or like you alluded to it too, online coaching. Yeah. Sounds like that's a big part of your business. It's kind of changing into that. So like when starting out, which do you think would be best to prioritize? That wasn't the initial question, but I'm like really curious on like what that looks like, especially when it comes to building that brand.
The thing about it, like so many things come to mind when you ask that question. It's like, okay, am I going to be able to handle everyone? What I'll say for someone who's wanting to start out, right? I really do think hands-on and being with clients is incredibly important. Like, I just think it's that you'd be missing a step if you go straight into online coaching, because you can be really good. Like you could be a hairstylist, whatever, like really good conversational, like with people. But at the same time, it's like you have to understand the practicality of like working with someone. If they're doing a squat and it hurts when they squat, well, you have to be able to pivot and then do something else. So, from an online coaching standpoint, you can swap things out, but there's still little nuances there that I think people miss if they skip the step of personal training and personal coaching and they go straight into online coaching. So great question. but yeah, from online coaching, like there's so much flexibility to it. You know, instead of making an hour session with me and making sure that you show up for that session, you can just do it whenever. It doesn't matter if it's midnight or, you know, it doesn't matter what time at all. Open the app and get it done. I think there's a huge like importance to that, you know, and sometimes people just need that extra push, and I get it. But, you know, when it comes to signing a commercial lease, I would say have some sort of get ready. Like have a couple people at least interested in the idea of getting coaching with you, because that's a pretty large undertaking, you know, to sign a commercial agreement. You're kind of, you know, it's you're going to be held to it by some way. And so if things kind of go upside down, that could look pretty tough. So, that would be my first advice. And I've had other coaches who are thinking about doing online coaching reach out to me and ask me that same question. I'm like, well, I mean, if you're passionate about it, you are educated. I've kind of vetted you a little bit, like asked you some questions here and there, and you have good answers. I still think there's still that little bit of insight that I think people miss out on if they skip that step. Yeah. You know, personal training is super important. Now, starting from the age of 19 and knowing very little about coaching at all, other than just being an athlete myself and being kind of a leadership on teams that I've been having leadership roles on teams that I played on, that was all I had when I was 19 years old, you know? And then I just started to grow up and grow an affinity for, again, like helping people, listening to people. Okay, well, if they can't stop eating at night, well, then how can we combat that? What can we do to, you know, and that's just stuff you learn on the trade, you know? It's a tool of the trade, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to learning, I'd like to kind of zoom in on that quote unquote educational, because I know there are some things you have to take in order to become a personal trainer or some certifications. So when you had started at 19, what did that process look like with getting that initial knowledge base for personal training or coaching?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was, again, practitioner as an athlete. Like I was very, like I would get up and lift. I remember my parents, when I was a junior, they got me a membership at Anytime Fitness in Columbus City.
Yep.
And I would drive to Anytime, you know, I'd get up 5 a.m. and get there like 5:45, and I would lift because I was very committed to, like, I wanted to be a Division I football player, and then with hopes to eventually be professional at a certain point. Pipe dreams, call it what you want, but it was something I was very much like, it was my identity. And so I was committed to that. So I was, you know, it didn't matter if I got 3 hours of sleep, I was still getting up that next morning, lifting before school. And so, yeah, that's the biggest thing is like, how do I want to answer this again too? Yeah, ask me again, because I keep running off.
You're
I'm
good.
so sorry, dude.
You're A-okay, dude. So pretty much, like, when it comes to educating yourself,
okay.
so yeah, like you were playing football, you were like doing it.
Yeah.
But obviously, to become a coach, there's a little bit higher of accountability, and like you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what does finding that like certification? I don't really know what the word is for that industry, but like, so like for real estate, you have to take a test. For whatever else, you need to go through this clear step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that for coaching?
Well, if I'm honest, like, you know, a certificate and certifications are super important. I'm not going to say they're not, and I've got multiple. The thing I'll say is the from an education standpoint, it's there if you want it, if you need it, but it's not necessary. It's not a necessity, right? Now, if you're personal training, unless you work for a gym, which I would not advise that. Again, I would not advise that.
We'll definitely talk on that later, because that you just piqued my curiosity. But yeah, continue.
So the only real big thing about a normal like personal training, a CPT, certified personal trainer, is like the insurance. Like there's you have some sort of like, if someone does get hurt under your watch, under your care, they can't like come fully after you and you know, sue you personally, right? It's obviously different when you talk about when you set up a business yourself, LLC versus S Corp and all that stuff. That's obviously a little bit different, but the way I see it, and the reason I haven't really went for a new certification in a while, is because like, as far as like cost, there's so much really, really good free information out there that as long as you can like actually like have it stick and learn, and then be able to, like, so apply it to your lifestyle first, That's the first thing I want people to understand. And that's what I think is taken me a really long way in this venture, in this career, is I will hear something, learn something, try something, and then I will continue to like do it and do it and do it. Did it work for me? What was my anecdote? Like, did I actually get something out of it, or what they were purporting it to be? The actual the takeaways, if you will. And then if it is, just tell the public, like let your clients know, let your friends know, let your family know. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, I think nutrition certification, like I got one of those, which is a really cool experience. I actually got to go to Chicago and do like a 2-day thing, like 8-hour sessions, and just like the most in-depth thing when you talk about like food. And I'm so glad that it stuck, because it's 16 hours, 2 days back to back. There's a lot of information. You're probably going to forget most of it, which I probably did and have. But I think, again, when you apply the things you learn, it's so much easier to then educate and then lead other people, right? That's the biggest thing, is like apply it to your lifestyle first, anything. And then what do you get from it? Do you get anything from it? Like, there's a lot of supplements out there that, guess what? Supplements are there to supplement, right? They're not going to change. Like, fat burners is the biggest waste of money you can spend money on, because it's just a lot of caffeine. And then they put other little, genetically, not made up, they're actually genetically modified things into it. And then the actual effect of a fat burner is just like a lot of fidgeting, because you're so highly caffeinated, or sweating too. Your body temperature gets up. Like, it's just not something you want to get out of. And then testosterone boosters too. Don't spend your money on either of those things. Whey protein, creatine, caffeine. That's all you need.
The 3 staples of
Yeah,
fitness.
that's all you need. That's all you need. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why not work for a gym? What would you warn people? I guess why? I'll just keep that question there. Why not work for a gym?
I think you can. I think the money, as far as like salary, like making enough money to make ends meet, like you totally can. Here's what I'll say. Now, as an entrepreneur, and kind of being an entrepreneur now for the last 11 years, technically, I've never been one to like, I don't like being told what to do very much. And I don't want to sound combative or so like, very much like anarchist or whatnot. But if I'm aware of something can be done better, I don't even want to have that conversation. I just want to do it better. I don't want to have to ask for permission to, hey, we can do this better. What do you think? I don't want to ask, what do you think? I just want to take the action and go. So, and the other things too, like I've learned from, again, having, coaching at other gyms, like gyms in town, in Fort Wayne and in Columbia City even too, is like, they're still your employer. So there's a lot of pleas out. Like, I know there's, for example, like a lot of gyms, especially, they'll market to new personal trainers, new, young, sometimes older personal trainers, and they'll say, we'll get you clients. Well, no, they won't, but they'll make you think that. And then, so it's almost like pipe dreams. You're still gonna have to put in the work. You still have to go out up to people at the gym, because you're there anyway, because you're making $10 an hour to sit there and clean, so you still have to put in the grunt effort, and you actually have to go and talk to people. That's what it is, like, just get out of your comfort zone. And that's the biggest thing I would say is I don't like being a W-2 employee. I'd much rather be, at least a 1099 or something like that. So, just being able to, like, the money you make is 100% reliant on the work you put in. And that's something I'd rather subscribe to than someone telling me I have to be there for this amount of time, even if I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. That's not a life I want to live. I don't want to do that.
Kind of sounds like working for a gym is a little bit more structured and restrictive.
Yeah.
Whereas going and doing your own thing, you have obviously that freedom and flexibility to pivot wherever you want to.
It's way riskier.
Yeah.
Because it's all on you. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things inside of Daily Fit that I don't want to do. Well, no one else is going to do them. So I just have to suck it up and do it. There's stuff I resent that I have to do. Mostly good though. Like, I wouldn't still do it if it was something I resented, like we talked about earlier. But there's just things you're going to have to show up and do. You're going to have to work late at night. You're going to have to miss out on some sleep, sacrifice some sleep. You're going to have to not hang out with friends some nights because you have to do certain things. And it's just that sacrifice, You'll find ways to, work all that stuff in again if it means something to you. But yeah, I'm not a structured person. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think there's situations where like one works better for a certain person, the other works better for a certain, like,
100%.
There's no one, and that's part of why I started this podcast.
Yeah.
There's no one way to do one thing. There are certain steps that you need to take for certain careers, but there's also so many different career paths. So kind of shifting to the way you do it and that kind of more of that, I don't know if freelance would be the right word, but like kind of that more flexible path. What are some things that people completely misunderstand about doing it the way you do it?
I think people think it's easy. And that's just what I think, because I've had people, again, reach out to me on Facebook, whatnot, text me, I'm thinking about doing this, being a personal trainer. What kind of pointers can you give me? And I don't want to be a negative Debbie Downer, but I was like, just look up the stats. Like most people who start personal training aren't doing it after a year.
Wow.
There's a lot of turnover in this career.
It's a quick turnover.
It is. Yeah. So, and sometimes longer, obviously you have the difference, but I know people at commercial gyms that I've gone to for a long time that, 1 month I see them there, the next month they're not there, so I think, and I don't want to like scare people away from it because the world needs more coaches. Like human nature, I don't want to get down. Well, I do, but I don't. We've made it, especially in America, we've made it so much easier to do everything in life. You don't even have to grocery shop if you don't want to. Come on, it's no shame to people who do the Instacart and stuff like that, but like Amazon's made it super easy for everything. And I take advantage of that stuff too, but you still have to that's the yellow brick road, right? Sometimes you got to go down the other ones, the ones that are less traveled, the ones that, are a little bit more rugged, maybe a little bumpy, a little bit of breaks in the road, stuff like that. It's a lot of speed bumps, but that's the stuff that you need to go through, And and what I've been saying a lot lately with things when people ask me, how's this, all that stuff. And that's something we can talk about at a later time. But I just what I'll say is the only way is through. That's the only way, it's like you can sit down and pout about it or get up and go. So yeah, I think, I think just thinking it's going to be easy. I think thinking it's going to be, I'll have 10 clients. I can think of 10 clients off the top of my head that are just going to be dying to coach with me and get my coaching. And the people that I assumed were going to be jumping on the bus right away when I had announced it, hey, starting Daily Fit, who wants a free session? Just try it out. The people that I knew for a fact that they would be there ghosted me, or they just didn't respond. They didn't respond, or they didn't comment, whatever, that they were interested. And so don't assume and don't think it's going to be easy. I think anything worth doing in this life is going to be difficult because even though there's a lot of talented people out there, a lot of very skilled people, grit goes a long way when we talk about success and being successful in whatever venture that you pursue. Yeah.
I think that's a very common thing as people look at these Instagram videos or TikTok or whatever else social media videos are out there, and they think it's, oh, this person did it, I can do it. It's going to be super clear, super concise, super easy. And most often time it is not really easy. So I appreciate you being very honest about hey, this journey is not what people make it out to be. Because I think social media inflates this false narrative of how easy it is to start a business, how easy it is to find clients, how easy it is to lose weight or get into shape. Because I know from personal experience, it is not that easy. So yeah, I really appreciate that honest perspective on, especially if somebody listens to this podcast and is thinking about getting into coaching, like that is a really good expectation setter and bringing people back to the ground. Like, hey, if this is something you truly want to pursue, this is what it's going to look like, and it's not going to be easy. So with that in mind, so like you had mentioned, oh yeah, go for it.
Well, I'd like to say too, like when I started my own business, I had already been coaching for 6.5, 7 years, right? So it's like I'd already had known and met and come across a lot of people already. So like it made it easier transitioning to, oh, hey, by the way, what I've been doing this whole time, I'm now doing for myself, you know? And so that was easier for me. Like if someone was just getting into personal training for the first time and no one has any idea other than that you take care of yourself and you exercise regularly, that's going to be harder to get through. I would assume. I don't have that perspective, but I would assume. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah. It's like keeping that in mind when you first started. So you had said you did it for 7 years, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you got 6, 7 years.
We don't have video. I know we don't have video, but it's almost a muscle. It's like a reflection.
I know. Especially like I help out with the youth group and like they do it all the time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like 6 to 7 years. Can't even see without laughing.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I did it. It's me. I'm the problem.
You are
Hashtag
good.
Morgan Wallen.
Great song.
It is a great song. Great song.
So you had mentioned that you had reached out to 10 people. I don't know if it was that exact number, but and they ghosted you. They said pretty much what they said without saying is, I don't want to support your business. Maybe that's a harsh way of putting it, but at the end of the day, that's what it really means. So when it came to getting those initial clients and starting, so you had this background, you obviously knew what you were doing, but people weren't willing to, or even like taking that step to do personal coaching or weight loss, that journey that you walk them through. How did you find those initial clients and deal with those hard conversations of people not wanting to take that step?
Ooh, yeah, okay. I might have to ask you the second part again because I'm gonna get probably lost in this first one. So, yeah, what I'd say is the people that I assumed, because again, I was assuming that I'd have just, 10 people right away, and it just didn't get that type of traction. It did get a good, like, I think in a small town, like word of mouth is super, super duper. In any town, really, word of mouth is going to go, you meet the right person, they're going to tell 50 people. Those 50 people, maybe 3 of them reach out to you, for example, right? Like, so the biggest thing is like doing good, like providing good service, showing that you care and are genuine is going to outpour it for who you have already is going to outpour into other people. Other people are going to notice, other people are going to see. And so I already had a pretty large following on my Facebook and my Instagram, stuff like that. So when I started making content, people had known that I'd been doing it for a long time because I'd always been very active, very physically, just fit. And then so when I started to like speak on an educational standpoint or like showing a little bit of how I coach, my personality when I coach, because the same personality you see when I'm recording myself is the exact same personality you see when I'm coaching somebody. And so that definitely helped, got me a little bit of more viewership, more people taking notice. And then from that point, like, just like, I think people just started to like me, I guess. I don't know if you probably noticed this, but I have undiagnosed, but probably severe ADHD. And I've always been very compared to a golden retriever. You can see it now, see? And there's actually, funny, this is a sidetrack, but my friend actually took a picture of a golden retriever smiling and a picture of me smiling, and he put them like side to side. And it's like, it's pretty close, man.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. It's so great. As far as like the hard conversations, and I remembered. Yeah, I mean, I still have hard conversations. I think they're hard to have. No one wants to have them. It's the same thing if you you're upset with a friend or you're upset with a spouse or a girlfriend, whatever, a boyfriend, whatever. Yeah, it's so much better to say what's bothering you or what you're seeing in their characteristics or their what they're doing, and you're like, hey, this is not you. Stop acting this way, or you said this, please don't do that anymore. That hurt me, whatever. Like, it's the same conversation. It's these hard conversations that people often run away from are essential to success, I would say. I wouldn't say they're completely like directly correlated, but I mean, there's times like I've had employees work for me, and I'm just like, I didn't say it this way, but I'm like, you're not really doing you're not doing what I'm asking you to do, and when you do what I asked you to do, you're not doing that great at it. But the turnaround of it, and obviously not saying it like that directly to them, putting them down in that example, is so much better because now we're eye level. Now they understand in that example with the employee, like they understand they're not performing or carrying out what I ask them to do on the same level or on the same performance metric that I expect them to. And so when I do bring that up and have that conversation, hard conversation, now they're more motivated. They're more like, so when it comes to someone, reaching out and be like, hey, don't know if you saw, but I'm now personal training, I'm personal coaching. I'm also online coaching. Would you be interested? First off, don't really pitch right away, because that's a really quick way to just, people toss that one aside usually, especially if they already know you're a coach. Like, it's like they don't want to respond to something they already know. But yeah, like there's times where, I'll send out quite a few messages every day, and some people open them and not respond. And I'll say, like, when I first started doing that, yeah, it was hard. It was very hard emotionally, I think, on me, because it's like someone you expect, someone you talk to them a handful of times, but it's good conversation, whatever. And then they just like, they open your message, but they don't respond. It's kind of like, this really cute girl that you've been messaging for a while, and then one day she just stops responding. That's sad, man. It hurts. It cuts you deep, So it's very similar. It's not quite the same, but it's very similar. And so, just like taking it on the chin and keep going. That's not the person that you're here to serve. So go find them.
Yeah, you had mentioned that like emotional piece of it is like equating it to like when you're talking to a girl and like she goes to you, like that's something I feel a lot of people don't talk about. Like there's a certain archetype of person out there who can cold call 1,000,000 people and have absolutely no reaction up or down with their emotional level. But like other people, most people aren't that way. So I appreciate you mentioning that emotional bit. Like it is hard. You got to take it on your chin and you just got to keep on moving. And you maybe alluded to this as well, but over time, did you kind of just build up that, for lack of a better word, callousness or like better emotional regulation as you started to do it? Or are there certain ways you had to learn to navigate that?
Great question. So I've recently learned too, my client kind of taught me through this. I used to think I was an introvert, and everybody I told was like, there's no way in heck that you're an introvert. And I believed that. I did. But I learned that I'm actually an extrovert, but I am an empath. So I feel everybody's everything. And here's how it relates. When I message someone, they ghost me, or I message them, maybe we get 2-3 messages back and forth, and then they ghost me. Either way, it kind of hurts because I can see that they saw the message. So it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. I feel very intimately when someone does ghost me. I get like, I used to get really mad like when someone would unfollow me or something, or like I'd be like, well, why did you unfollow me? It just doesn't, it's the biggest thing, especially when it relates to social media, because I'm assuming that's when most people are going to do their messaging and things like that. Like, it's a made up place.
That's such a good.
It's literally a human construct that we have made for whatever reason that's now become mostly marketing all the time. I mean, did you know, like I don't even know the number, so I'm just going to throw a number out. It's probably way wrong, but we see like over 10,000 advertisements a day. And like, bro, we're not even awake the full day. We can't see advertisements in our dreams. So it's like, that's a lot of things you're seeing every single day. So again, I guess this isn't really asked, but when it comes to starting, if you want to get into coaching, find something that you're really passionate about and you're like, and makes you stand out. I've used my skill as an empath, my skill as a golden retriever of sorts, and people just like, oh, I like his energy. Oh, he's educated. I can tell because he uses big words, right? Or whatever, right? Like find something that it's going to make you stand out, because it's going to be really, really hard if you don't, because you're just like every other person trying to be one, trying to make it, The biggest thing is genuine. Just be genuine. You know, I've learned that from a sales standpoint too. Something I never wanted to do ever in my life was sales. And then when I became an entrepreneur, I was like, oh wait, that's like the only way I can make money is to actually, you know, do something at sales. But what I've learned about sales too is like, it's just be genuine. Like if you're trying to make the sale, you're not going to get the sale. So like figure out what this person's dealing with and how you can help them, and then paint that picture, and then whatever, like if they say yes, they say yes. If they say no, they say no. But that's, you know, just be genuine, you know? So again, it kind of relates back to what you asked me earlier too, is like when it gets hard, you know, like just remember why you started. Or if you get resentful on, like if you're starting to resent your job, why'd you start? Why'd you take the job in the first place? Yeah.
Going back to that foundation and kind of that anchor in a way. Yeah, appreciate that. So you'd mentioned in there the messaging on social media.
Yeah.
When it comes, kind of just talking logistics here for a second, when it comes to reaching out to those people, do you do that mostly through social media, or do you have like a system where you can get numbers to kind of reach out cold? Like walk me through what that looks like.
Never been a cold caller. Never will I be a cold caller. It's just not something, it's very, you know, people say used car salesmen. And again, like I hate that term too. I've never been a used car salesman, but I bought my car from a used car salesman and he was excellent. He just wanted to help me. Again, that's sales. Someone who needs the sale and you can smell it on their cologne, that's not going to work, you know? And so, okay, I say that again because I kind of got sidetracked there.
You're good. So, like, is there any sort of system where you get people to contact, kind of like a inflow of contact information?
Unfortunately, no. No one gets the leads besides me, right? So, sometimes it's being on the made up places that I sometimes will despise because of you'll always catch something that you wished you compare yourself to all the time. And that's why, again, social media is really, really hard on the human brain. But yeah, no, it's mostly just like I know Facebook groups is big. So like sometimes I would, you know, a couple years ago, I actually hired a company to kind of go into Facebook groups under my profile and then like do these initial posts. And then from that point on, if they got some traction on that post, then I would reach out to them. So I guess from a gaining, you know, any sort of leverage, for meeting people that I didn't know, that was beneficial. But beyond that, it's going through followers, it's going through friends of mine on Facebook, things like that. And then, you know, and then just, being able to, you know, reach out to them, see if you can help them. It's just genuine though. Like, hey, how you doing? Been a while. Like, or looking through stories. I saw you posted this. Like, what was your experience like with that? Or, oh, that looked good. They posted their lunch and it looked like an amazing meal, right? You're like, ooh, that looks tasty. Where'd you get it from? What would you know, it's simple. Just start with the small talk and then just kind of lead the direction in like, hey, like, how you doing? Like, you got any goals you're working towards? Like any health goals? I don't know if you know this, but I'm a health coach. Like I help people lose weight. It's just leading into that some way is going to be very, very helpful. Yeah.
Well, that's really, let's see. I don't know. It's like I'm a real estate agent. And I kind of hear all these different ways of doing business, and it seems like, obviously, I've only been doing it for 2 and some change years, but it seems like the general idea or focus is like just being genuine with people and helping people and really taking a humble, but like, hey, like, what can I help you with? What bridges can I gap for you? What people can I put you in contact with? It sounds like very similar to with how you encourage people and kind of like not poke them, but just be like, hey, like check in on them. It would be a better way to say it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really unique. And I think that's something that will be more present going forward because obviously, again, social media is a whole nother podcast.
Yes, it is.
Like with how disingenuous and artificial that is, I think that personal touch or that like genuine nature is a breath of fresh air for a lot of people. So
Absolutely.
That's really encouraging just for me to hear as well, to see that more people are doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Especially in, well, I guess this is another question. Is your industry and your role, is that super saturated?
Yes.
How so?
I mean, I know there's multiple, there's a lot of coaches in Fort Wayne. And I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I'm just from a small town just west of here, uh, and there's that, comparison syndrome if you're looking on social media, because you're going to find all the good, you're never going to see any bad, which is also really important to keep in mind, kids, if you're listening. Um, yeah, I like very saturated. And before I went and jumped into becoming an online coach, I, you know, I kind of hold on to that. But when I started, I remember like approaching my friend being like, hey, like, I really think I want to start my own thing. And I was working for him still at the time. I was, probably working 25 hours on with it, the coaching classes and sessions at his gym. And he's also the landlord, the owner of the building. I approached him and I was like, hey, I want to start my own thing. Like he actually was like all for it. And he had me a commercial agreement like written and sent to me the next day. Actually had paper copy to sign and all that stuff. But I remember thinking before I got in, when the personal training got really big, which was awesome, where I was working probably 60 hours just with clients a week. And that's 5 a.m., wake up 4 a.m. till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I was like, okay, well, I can't do this much longer because I've only been doing it for like 2 months at this clip, and I'm losing my mind. Insomnia is starting to take hold. And so when I got that, I was thinking, okay, what's this online coaching thing? Because I know there's online coaches out there. It was I don't want to call it in its infancy because there was a lot of coaches. I think it was more infancy in this area, like Indiana, Northeast Indiana, all that stuff. But I was, worried. I was like, okay, well, there's a lot of people doing this. Like, how am I gonna make it make sense for me? But instead, because you call it bullheaded, call it whatever you want, I jumped anyway, and I went and got some coaching from a company out of Austin, Texas, and they helped me like launch it basically. Again, business mentorship is expensive, but if you find the right ones, it's really beneficial. And they helped me launch it. They helped me understand, okay, what does it take to be an online coach? What is online coaching even like? What is it? Because you got people out there that'll, get my free PDF. And it's like, that's not going to help anybody. It might help them for a week, but then, not much changes or life gets in the way. And then it's now not important. So I think those are dead. That's another side thing. But yeah, like I think, the saturation definitely scared me, but I'm very good at just try it, like just fail forward. You know what I mean? Like as long as you keep in mind, like you fail forward, and you'll never lose, you learn. I don't lose, I learn, even if I don't really fully believe that's true, if I keep saying it, I'm going to keep doing it.
It's better to deal with oh well than what if. That's
Ooh.
like an artist that I listened to like said that in some song, and like that stuck with me because I'm like, dang, like think about how much emotional baggage you carry when you don't go for things.
Say it again.
It's better to deal with oh well than what if.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's something like with people who are entrepreneurs that are starting businesses, like if they go for it, they're in it for a year and they fail, like they quote unquote fail, financially fail, whatever the world wants to put on failure.
Yeah, right. 100%.
Is like, yeah, but they went for it. Like they didn't do it for 3 decades, but at least they went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like failing is not trying. And
Yeah.
And like, especially in a saturated market, like you said, the average tenure of being in the personal coach industry is about 1 year. Like that's 12 months. And with that saturation, but at least people are trying and people are going for it.
Yeah.
And like you tried it and you went for it and like now you're here. It was for you. Like this is the need that you're fulfilling in people's lives, and like you've been equipped for that, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really cutting through that saturation, I think, is a very difficult thing to do, and having that mindset of just plowing through is super beneficial.
Yeah. Another one that I kind of, when I do have something I don't want to do, but I know I needs done, is like just take messy action. Like just like
good,
just
yeah.
like don't even like like don't even, especially when it comes to posting on social media, I cannot tell you how many reels that I've posted that, and some that I haven't posted because I was like, oh, that's cringy. Oh, I'm going to be like, someone's going to like think of me in a different light. Like, again, again. And I cannot, like, especially if you're a young kid thinking about doing this or whatever, I don't even care what age you are and you've never done anything like this and you want to get into social media, don't ever let a made up place, a fake place dictate your emotions and how you reflect and how you see yourself when you look in the mirror, right? Because it's not that, like, it's not real. And so, but again, like I said, like there's so many reels, so many things I've recorded, edited, all this stuff that I just never posted because I was worried. I was paralyzed by what is the world? What are my following? What are my friends, family, people I don't even know who follow me going to think of me if they see this? It's like, just post it. Like, that's the kind of same thing with messy action. It's like, you already put the work in recording it, editing it, and thinking of a caption for it, and then you don't do it. You put in a lot of work for nothing, you know? So, and that's just social media. There's obviously other things too that are very similar, but you just can't let something as silly as, you know, what are people going to think of me? Let them think of you whatever they want to think of you. Like, again, those aren't your people you're trying to serve.
And humans have a very short, I think, recollection, or like I think we stress out, and I might have said this on this podcast, but I say this all the time because it's something I have to remind myself, is we stress about these little things that in 5 years we won't even remember. I think when it comes to starting your own business, that's something you need to keep in mind. Is like, hey, like, say if one person doesn't like this video and they're like, oh, that's the worst video I've ever seen. In 5 years, it's not going to matter. You're not even going to remember what you posted, let alone
3
like
months.
Who that person. Yeah, 2 weeks, 2
Maybe,
hours.
yeah,
You know, like,
right.
But I think we stress about those little instances and let it dictate our direction. That was a side thing. That was amazing.
That was good.
that was awesome,
good.
Dude. That was a lot of
Yeah.
good insight.
Mic
because
drop.
I think, like, even though we're talking about your specific role and that transition from that 7 years and like just that overall journey that you've gone on, the things we just talked about for however many minutes, like those do play a big part in like people's thought processes or how they process going into this journey. I think those aren't necessarily always communicated or brought to light. So I think that was amazing. That was
Thank
amazing.
you, brother.
That was
Thank
awesome.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there any other words of advice you would give to somebody? This isn't the last question. I think I mentioned that before, but this is just a separate question.
Yeah.
Is there any other words of advice when it comes to starting this business? Because obviously it is a personal brand. You're putting yourself out on the line. You're taking certain risks. Are there any other bits of information you would encourage somebody to keep in mind when navigating that?
Oh, wow. That's one you just came up with? Yeah, it's a talent, brother. You gotta want it. You know, it kind of comes back to like doing the things that you don't want to do, because so many entrepreneurs, especially, will just run away or chase cheap dopamine. I've done it too. Had a lot of tough stuff happen last year in my life, and it was very hard for me to focus, even with my, ADHD, undiagnosed. And like, when you do have that path of resistance, you will, and again, like, full transparency, like, I was talking to a therapist at the time, and he actually enlightened me on it. He's like, well, every time you reach something you don't want to do, or you don't excel at, you'll often go chase cheap dopamine. I'll go work out again, or I'll go watch YouTube, or I'll go, go eat, go get some ice cream and then cry myself to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. But like, I'll always go for something that is the path of least resistance, that is cheap dopamine. It's that positive, I think, positive feedback loop. Maybe it's a negative feedback loop. I always get those two confused, but it's just a circle. It's a vicious cycle. So making sure that you want to do it and understand that when you do start a business, I'll go there. Unless you're starting with someone else, if you're a sole entrepreneur, it all falls on you. Everything that that comprises your business is your responsibility at all times. And so I think with that, I think the biggest thing to remember too, I didn't start entrepreneurship with Daily Fit. I am a firm believer that I started my entrepreneurship with carnivore fitness back in the day. The difference is I had the anecdote of being there, being an ear to listen to. I didn't do anything financially, but I obviously provided direction, business direction, my insight on a lot of things, told him no, he still did it anyway, things like that. And so I had that anecdote well before I started my own venture. So I knew a lot of the ins and outs of business as a whole before I even went and said, oh yeah, let's go, let's take a jump. So if I hadn't had that, I probably wouldn't be doing, I think everything happens in life for a reason. Like I wouldn't have, I don't think Daily Fit would be a thing. And just you got to really, really, really want it, because there's going to be a lot of things, again, like we've already mentioned, like people you think are going to do it that just don't show up, don't comment, aren't interested. And then you're like, oh no, like, and you kind of down the dumps, and it's going to just keep happening. But you just, like, again, you have to remember the only way is through is the first thing. And there's so many other people that do and actually want your perspective and your coaching at the end of the day, and beginning, middle, and end of every day. They want you. They like you as a person, and that's the biggest thing. They like you because you're genuine, and they like you because you're educated, and they like you because they want to spend time with you. That's kind of what it is. Like all my clients actually enjoy spending time with me, or at least wanting my insight on things. So they must like me at least a little bit, which is, again, it's a respect thing. I love my clients, all of them, every single one of them. But that's what it is, just being genuine, being, you got to have some energy as a coach. You can't just be, monotoned and very low energy, and you get, for the most, you have to be one of the most positive people in the world, which I think has worked really well in my favor as well, because I'm an incredibly optimistic person. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like shifting towards more of that client perspective and working with clients directly. Can you give me an example of a good client and then on the flip side, a bad client?
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's
I know there's no such thing as a bad client, but like there are some clients
debatable.
that are challengers.
I'm kidding. If you're listening to this, you know who you are. No. I definitely wouldn't call a bad client. There are there's clients that I wouldn't like. I heard this again from a business standpoint. You don't want to make every sale, because there are people that will buy your product or buy your service that you really don't want to work with. They're that bad egg, and that's no shame. That's not saying that I've really come across a bad egg, but there's been people that I've, I trusted and entrusted in a lot of things, that I think too, like, wouldn't do what I asked them to do, or they'd be paying clients and they would ghost me, or they were expected to pay and they didn't pay, and then they would ghost me still. So there's just such people that you'll come across that it's kind of that golden retriever. I want to be everybody's friend, or I think the best of everyone. There's people out there that are like that, and just understanding, like, it's not a reflection of you, it is a reflection of them. And that's the biggest thing. And reminding yourself of that, that's how you kind of combat those things. That's how I've combated those things. As far as bad, like, yeah, just clients that don't, I love questions. So when I take a new client in and they just bombard me with all these questions, I welcome it, right? Because one thing it shows me is that I haven't been clear in communicating what I'm expecting of them from the start. That's the first thing. The second thing is they want to know these things. There's wonder, there's courage, there's curiosity is the word I was looking for. Curiosity there. I love curiosity. Curious mind is one that never stops learning, right? So that's an alias of a good client, is someone who is always trying to do their best. That's the biggest thing. A bad client is someone who just like, I don't know if they've ever had a good day ever in their life, because they can find anything negative they can find, they can fixate on, and then outpour on other people. Like if I ask, oh, how's your day? How's your week? And the first thing they say is something bad, like that's not how I want you to frame your mind. That's not how Daily Fit is built. Daily Fit is about empowering people, right? Empowered people don't talk about they spilled their coffee this morning. They talk about, oh, I talked to somebody at Meyer this morning and we had a great conversation. He actually goes to church with me. I didn't even know he goes to that church. Like just again, that's off the cusp, like example, but like being a good person and letting it outpour and pouring into other people, empowering other people in other people's lives, and ultimately being the most authentic version of yourself into each room that you walk into. That's what Daily Fit's about. Being able to help that person through that. People that feel stuck in this situation. I don't want anyone to ever feel stuck in a situation. It's kind of why I don't like 9-to-5 jobs too. It's because like you're stuck. There's a lot of jobs like I've had friends that will snap me in the middle of the day. It's like, you're working, aren't you? Like, why are you snapping me right now? And you're like, as soon as you get the snap, you open it up, you respond. Like, what are you doing? You're on the clock, and like it's just yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that answered the question.
Yeah, for sure, it definitely did. And kind of a follow-up question is, have you ever had to fire a client? And if you need me to explain what that means,
I know,
because yeah. And if you have, or if there's a different version of that you've had to do that, like you would identify differently, what does that conversation look like, and how did you learn how to navigate that conversation? So that's kind of a loaded question, but pretty much like, how do you handle firing clients?
I don't recall ever quote firing a client. I've had clients that I was like, I don't think, like, again, empath, I feel everybody's everything and I get to keep mine too. So when someone would say I had a bad day, and every time I asked them how their day was, it was always a bad day, I feel that. And so I could feel in my, if I'd see them 3, 4, whatever times a week, or message them on my online coaching, app platform, and it was always something negative or something bad is going on, it would outpour into my lifestyle. Like I would feel that emotionally in a more of a deeper way than other people probably just hear it and like, oh, I'm sorry that happened, whatever. I feel a little bit more closely and intimately. So there's been people because of that where I was like, hey, you can't find anything positive in your life ever, it seems. I don't really want to work with you anymore because it's actually good. It's affecting my life. Again, not like grand scale, like it's actually like, spouse, friend, whatever, actually having these things happen or being negative. But you do spend a lot of time with clients. You spend a lot of time talking to them, helping them, whatever. So, there's been clients that I've had that's just like, they can't find anything positive ever in their life. And there's people like that all the time. And if I was going to say that those are the people that I wouldn't want to work with, it's probably them. But the big thing to keep in mind too, I just said it, is like empowering and getting people out of the version of themselves they feel stuck in. I think that's a lot more than just like nutrition and exercise. I think those things are the foundations for changing that and manipulating that version of like the pessimistic version versus into like more of an optimistic version. I think those are the foundation: exercise, some sort of regular routine, and then good nutrition, proper fueling your body. But yeah, I mean, that's the short of it. The long short of it, I guess, is like, there's people that I think you should vet better when it comes to, not everybody. Again, not everybody you want to sell. You don't want everybody in your coaching program. I'll take everybody, but if I have to fire you, I will, because I can't let it affect my life too. Yeah. And I think too, with that, the longer you work with someone, you start to learn how to work through it yourself. As I mentioned, like it affecting my lifestyle and how I emotionally was going and doing, I started to kind of, even though I do have that like empathic type, characteristic, I was able to kind of block that out and like work through that. Like, okay, that's not, again, not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of them. And if it just keeps happening, it's kind of like, okay, well, I can't really help you, like like this sounds greedy, but like, if you want to keep paying me, but I don't think this is for you because you got some other stuff you got to work out. That's the simple of it.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Thank you.
Like personal training, I definitely feel like you have to want it.
Mm.
And if you're not in a headspace where you're willing to put in the work, then and especially as a coach, like that person is paying you, and to say like, hey, this is not for you right now. Like that's a very,
and it's not cheap either. Like it's I mean, I'm not gonna, I'm not a low barrier offer type person. It's what I've learned too about, and this is probably an overshare, but it's actually like, especially when we talk about entrepreneurship and business, is the more you have to remind them what they're doing it for, right? Oh, okay. Here's one of my favorites. When I'm talking to a father and we're on a call, like, okay, well, so tell me, like, why are we here? And they say, oh, I want to lose weight. I want more energy, whatever. Those blanket statements. That's never the one you want to go for. You want to go for something deeper, always, every time. You want to get to the emotions. So, okay, eventually you get to, well, I have 2 daughters. They're 4 and 6. And I want to be able to, be healthy. I'm scared for I'm type 2 diabetic. I've got hypertension. My calves, I have like some neuropathy in my feet sometimes when I'm standing too long or sitting too long. And I just want to be able to walk them down the aisle someday. As a father myself, if I am saying that to somebody who I know can help me, there is nothing in this world is going to stop me from saying yes if I truly do want those things. Because if I love my daughter to death, I want to be like doing freaking barrel rolls down the aisle with her, you know. And if I can't do that, that's going to be, So what I was saying that for really was, what I've learned is if you charge a low price, you're going to get low, not efficacy. You're going to get low standards. The lower price you offer, the lower standards you're going to receive. So even if someone can barely afford your coaching, but they like you enough, they believe in you enough, and you help them believe in themselves enough to be able to achieve what they're wanting to achieve, they're going to find a way, And that exact archetype, those are the people you want to work with, because everything you ask of them, they're going to do, and they're going to ask for more. And I've coached those people. Those are the good ones. Those are the good ones. They don't have to be type A. They just have to be like, this means something to me. And they're like dead set on goals. Boom. Again, the other thing I was gonna say was like, it kind of led to this too, is like, if you want it to mean something to them, you gotta kind of make it hurt a little bit, And I hate to say that, but I've I could not be more serious. The more I've charged, I'm not even concerned about market, economy, whatever. The more money I've charged to certain clients, and the more quote unquote it hurt their wallet, the more they were like on top of things, The lower, like I've offered free services before. They don't like, I've seen it. It's psychology. They don't take it seriously, And so, again, not throwing shade at anybody. If you're hearing this and I've offered you free services and you might be one of those people, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, if I would have charged you something and it would have meant enough to you, you would have done what I asked you to do. And I know you would have, and that's, again, like, I love everybody. I do love everybody. I'm just a ELE, everybody love everybody type person. But, it's definitely what I've learned when it comes to psychology is the more you can make it hurt. Again, from a financial standpoint, oftentimes you're going to get people, and again, they have to be invested. If they're invested, they're going to work for you, work with you.
Yeah. They're willing to put in the work they're willing to be in there for the long haul.
They're willing to make the sacrifice. If they're having a hard time getting groceries and paying their mortgage, but they know how important their health is, and they know how important, like, and they know how you can help them, which comes down to you. You have to share that with them. Again, if you can paint that picture for them, well, in 20 years when your daughter's 24, she's getting married, you have to walk her down the aisle. Yeah, as long as you do what I ask you to do, you become disciplined and determined enough to be able to do this for another 20 years, you're going to be sprinting down that Aisle. Yeah. Goodness sakes. Yeah. Versus, wheelchair down the aisle, or hopefully you're there down the aisle, like and again, that's a deep, deep one. But that means something, so you have to find what's the why behind the why. Yeah. A little bit of free sales training for you. You're welcome.
Why behind the why? Yeah. And it's like the holistic thing of it all. Like, it's the big picture thing. In 20 years, that's a big time span.
Yeah.
But 20 years is made up of 12 months. 12 months is made up of 30 to some day. Like, when you break it down, it's like 20 years is today in a weird sense.
Yeah.
So when people are willing to make that sacrifice and still show up, even if they can't, even if they're affording it, but it still maybe hurts a little bit. Like, that is important. It's still worth it for them. And that's probably encouraging for you too, to be able to walk people through that.
Yeah. I mean, it is, like I said, when it comes to good versus bad clients, excuse me, that was probably flattering. I've enjoyed working with every client because I've gotten some sort of, again, perspective. I've learned from having coached bad clients and good clients. And I think that's again, that is value. That's way more than you're ever going to get when it comes to like paychecks or, financial gain or scalability or all that fun buzzwords and stuff. But like, if you can learn, how people are going to react to certain things, it makes conversations easier. It makes hard conversations easier, right? It's like, oh, okay, I understand. Like, I understand psychology. I actually do understand it pretty well because I've taken courses and things like that. I understand sociology, which are, again, very different, but also very similar. And when you understand those things, it just makes life easier and way more fun too. Like, yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole, but I love those two things as well, which I've used in my coaching, obviously, as well.
Yeah. Going back to just keeping your why and why even start in the first place. Yeah. So keeping that all in mind, what we just talked about for like the last hour, which we've talked about a lot, and it's all been amazing.
Thank you.
Like, say somebody's listening to this, kind of, I don't know if I explained this to you through text or when we like first met, but kind of the purpose of these conversations are those people at these career crossroads. Either they're 19 looking to go to college or go into the workforce or start their business, or if they're 35, 40, like just got let go or just for whatever reason is at this crossroads. For somebody wanting to get into personal coaching, weight loss, like virtual coaching, what's the first tangible step you would tell them to take in order to get into that?
Okay, one more time. Say it again.
So somebody's looking at getting into coaching.
Yeah.
What's the first tangible step you would tell them to take after like listening to this podcast, however they find this, whatever, like what's the next thing they need to do in order to start?
Age doesn't matter. Age isn't a factor. I mean, is that?
Yeah, age isn't a factor.
It kind of is.
For personal training, it kind of
is.
Because
experience matters, right?
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's the answer, I guess, would be experience matters. So get your hands dirty. I think a good thing, like, don't even, like, if you're wanting to make a jump and get into a career, don't ask for money. Get the experience. If you've never coached anybody before, help your girlfriend's parents out. They want to lose weight. Help your parents out. Help your friends' parents out. Help your, help people who need the help, but don't charge them anything. But offer like better service than you, because you have the time. Offer better service than you even would as a coach, because it's going to prime you and it's going to get you ready for when you do make the leap and do start asking for money and actually charging money, higher ticket offers. It's going to prime you. Right. It's, oh man, there's a quote that I love that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. I mean, I don't want to get super in spiritual, but like like you're not ready for something that you've not practiced. Right. Michael Jordan is not arguably arguably the best basketball player of all time because he was just genetically different. Yes, he's genetically different, but he also worked harder than anybody breathing. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Tom Brady. Tom Brady, if you saw his draft photos and you saw his accolades and you saw them next to each other, you'd be like, oh, there's no way. Same thing. Like he put himself, all of them put themselves in situations where it was dark, it was hard, it was no one else was doing it. They were sacrificing themselves. And so that's how I'd answer it too, is just get the experience. Sacrifice money for experience. Learning how to coach someone, because I do think it is a skill and it needs to be worked on. Just like any other venture, I couldn't be a carpenter because I don't know how to build things with wood, right? Or whatever example. That's not even that great of an example, but like you just need to get the experience. You need the hands-on job training. And if you can help a loved one, even if they might not take it seriously because it's free, they might. And irregardless, you still get the experience of helping them, which is going to be, again, that's getting the calluses. Calluses on the hands, calluses on the brain. That's what you need to build. Yeah, 100%. That's through and through. That's my answer.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and
absolutely
share those thoughts. That was an amazing conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad to be here. Very glad to be here.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this episode of Candid Careers. If you received any insight or encouragement at all from this episode, I'd invite you to follow and rate this show wherever you're listening. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next conversation.